So in this video, akong i-discuss is the way we add vectors. How can we add vectors? So the first one we need to know is that if vectors lie on the same axis and heading towards the same direction, you just simply add them as is. So if I have here, this is say vector A, and I want to add it to vector B. This is 5, and this is 5 pounds, and this is 12 pounds. I'll just add it as is, 5 plus 12, lang. This is the magnitude of the resultant vector, resultant of these two. Since they are both heading towards positive direction, positive x, so we just add them, 5 plus 12. So that's the magnitude of the resultant vector. And since vector has magnitude and direction, it should have magnitude and direction niya. Na diri magnitude pa man niya to. To complete this, kailangan ta og direction. So just take note nga, if this is your axis, this is always the reference axis. And then if we rotate like that, that's 90, then 180, 270, 360. And since the magnitude tells us that it is positive 17, it's heading towards the right, and there is no inclination, as we can see. Thus, the angle of this is 0 degrees. So if we add vector A and vector B, in which they are lying through the same axis and has no inclination, this is the answer. So for the second one, let's try this. Since they are both heading towards negative, we can say that negative this vector and then negative plus negative of this vector will give us negative the answer of this. Let's say this is 5, this is 12. This is negative 5 plus negative 12, which is still negative 17. And since it is towards negative direction already, it is described already as negative. Ang angle na gamiton is 0 degrees. Kay kung mamingon ka nga 180 degrees, kay gikan na siya diri pa ana. Dili man, kay ningon naman siya daan nga negative 17. So the angle is 0 degrees. But kung ningon siya nga 17, that's going there. That's the timing ka nga 180 degrees. So ana na siya pag-describe og vector, resultant of a vector. This is the first case when we add vectors. Second case is if we add vectors that lie on the same axis, they are on the same axis, but heading towards opposite direction. So in vectors, importante gyud ang direction. Kung padulong siya sa positive x, positive ang sign. Kung padulong sa negative x, negative ang sign. Kung padulong sa positive y, positive na padulong sa negative y, syempre negative y. And this time, as we can see, these two vectors, kinira siya ang padulong sa positive, kini padulong sa negative. So if we add that would become, let's say 5 yapon o 12. 5 plus negative 12, and that's negative 7. So ano lang, take the sign. So that's the most important one. Then the angle is still in reference to this side, but since lagi kay padulong siya sa negative daan, kung ingong pagyud ta nga 180 degrees, hindi mo balik siya paingon dire. We will later on discuss more about that. Then the third case is if we add vectors that are perpendicular to each other, meaning 90 degrees, just like this configuration. So if this is vector A, vector B, what is now the resultant? Or if I want to represent it with just a single force vector, how? And unsa man? So the method here is what they call tip to tail. If this is the tip of the vector, this is the arrow, this is the tip, this is the tail. We just have to move this entire vector to the tip of this vector, to the head or tip, head, tip. And that's why they call it tip to tail, because this is tip, this is tip, tail. And this is tip, tail. We can either move this vector B to the tip of A, or we move this A to the tip of B. Either ways, they are correct and would give the same answer. To get the magnitude of the resultant, this is the resultant. Here, this is the resultant. Just have to follow or use, since this is a right triangle, the very useful formula here is the Pythagorean Theorem. C squared equals A squared plus B squared. Or the square of the hypotenuse of a right triangle is equal to the sum of the squares, meaning square of this and square of this. That will give this, right? So the resultant, this is just magnitude, a fancy way to say that magnitude of the vector, this is a vector R. If we are concerned with the magnitude, we have to put like that. Kung sa kuan ba na siya, itawag absolute value, pero sa vectors ko na siya magnitude. So muna, square ang magnitude sa A, square sa magnitude sa B, take the square root. That's now the answer. So based on our example, if this is 5, this is 12. To get the resultant, 5 squared plus 12 squared, that's 144 plus 25, that's 169. And take the square root of it. It will give us 13 as the magnitude. Then for the direction, here, since this is the opposite side, this is the opposite side, kini kay adjacent side. Oh, that's TOA, that's TOA. Opposite over adjacent. We can use tangent of theta is equal to this B over A, opposite over adjacent. And then if we take the tan inverse of both sides, will give us the theta, or the angle we're in. We can describe the inclination of this resultant force vector. So that's it. This is the resultant vector, magnitude, this, and the direction. Okay. Please stay tuned, because in the next video we will discuss the case 4 and another trigonometry review that is helpful in the next topics. Thank you.